This morning, Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson, you just saw him. He also, he said the entire debacle hurt the city of Chicago and said even more. Watch this.
Smollett attempted to gain attention by sending a false letter that relied on racial, homophobic, and political language. When that didn't work, Smollett paid $3,500 to stage this attack and drag Chicago's reputation through the mud in the process. And why? This stunt was orchestrated by Smollett because he was dissatisfied with his salary. So he concocted a story about being attacked.
Oh, mercy. He may now have no salary. Of course, he's potentially hurt a lot more than people just in Chicago. His friends, his family, his fans, and the millions of Trump supporters who were unfairly blamed here. So why, beyond money, would somebody do something like this, risking so much? Joining me now, it is Dr. Drew Midday, live co-host. He's an internist and an addictionologist, Dr. Drew Pinsky. I'm so glad to talk to you because you are one of the very best people I know at figuring out the psychology behind acts like this that oftentimes go hand in hand with people who are in the limelight.
That is true, and I hate to open with this, but I cannot make much sense of this either, Kennedy. I've got some theories, and interestingly, this entire circumstance has been about human motivation, right? When we first heard about these two assailants in the middle of the night, what would motivate somebody to track down some dude that was 4 hours late, getting a sandwich at -5-degree weather in the middle of the night in Chicago? There's no motivation on earth to make somebody do that. So the whole thing didn't make any sense. Here we are again. It's not making much sense. Why would this kid do this? One, the police is building the case that it is for his salary, but that doesn't make much sense either, does it? I mean,
unless he directly sent text messages to these guys saying, I'm sick of the man screwing me, I don't make enough money.
It could be, and it could be part of it, but if you read his Twitter feed, I mean, his vitriol is extraordinary. So you have to wonder if a cigar is just a good smoke, in a sense that he just wants to disrupt, be politically disruptive. That's still a possibility here.
I agree, and he doesn't know exactly how to go about it.
Yeah.
But he sees something, and in his mind, and I guess this is where the disconnect is, because in his mind, it's a logical bridge going from the hatred he has for the president to this act, and it magically unfolds to his advantage,
right.
to the president's detriment.
Exactly, and be that, I spoke to some law enforcement on my radio program this afternoon where they said essentially that may be his motivation, but every criminal believes they're justified in what they're doing. That's part of the criminal thinking. And so you got to wonder, you know, what's interesting to me with the case presently is what's not happening. You don't see him going to a psychiatric hospital or a rehab.
Well, that's my question. Is that the next step for someone like this?
I think they would have already done that.
Because Anthony Weiner did that. I mean, we see this time and time again for Tiger Woods, people who partake in self-destructive acts that don't necessarily have to do with substance.
They have to meet criteria. These facilities their licensing depends on having admission criteria. And if he really doesn't meet criteria for a treatable acute psychiatric condition, there's no way they can admit him anywhere. If he has some sort of chronic character pathology, you and I kind of talked a little bit about that off the air, that's not something amenable to an acute psychiatric sort of hospitalization. That is a chronic condition. You can minimize some of the manifestations, but it doesn't ever really change unless that person very much wants it changed.
All right, but someone like that, I mean, doesn't he see the fallout if this whole thing falls apart?
Yeah.
Or is he incapable? So someone who's so caught up in a fantasy and placing themselves as the victim who ultimately becomes the hero, are they not able to see the flip side?
Let's say he has a character illness, like a character pathology. Literally a feature of that pathology is it's never me. It's always out there. That's the problem. And this could still be part of that. I mean, I'm kind of...
What is that called?
That's called character illness. That's called personality disorder. And it could be sociopathy, narcissism, borderline. These disorders all have those same kinds of features. And they will do very destructive acts, very manipulative acts, anyone with those conditions. And I feel bad for him. Weirdly, because I'm a clinician, when people have sort of, whether it's a personality problem or major psychiatric pathology, I feel bad for that person.
Yeah, no, because you see this and you see the manifestation, you say, something is wrong.
Something is wrong.
Something has happened in his life. There's some element of pain or trauma, and that's what you are drawn to treat. Where the rest of us look at this and say, wow, what a jerk. He makes a whole group of people look bad, and he doesn't seem to mind that. And then if you voiced any skepticism in the beginning, you were a horrible person.
Right. And that, to me, when I get angry at somebody, I get angry with with journalism. What journalism is supposed to report the facts, not a narrative they want to hit, shove up our, what. I mean, they are supposed to report the facts, and if there is a narrative, question it, talk about how it didn't make sense, but we're looking into it, instead of breathlessly running to conclude that narrative in every story they tell. The politicians, I expect that from them. But the journalists, they should have a Manhattan Project to look at how this is possible.
Yes.
A profession that's supposed, if my profession or a legal profession made a gaffe like this, we would take it very seriously. They seem nonplussed.
No, the only people who treated it the way you said was appropriate was the Chicago PD.
Yep.
And they've had a long history of claims of racism. So I think that they are upset, they are disappointed, but somewhat relieved that their investigatory work is bearing fruit.
And the facts are the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all they can rely on.
He and his legal team don't seem to
want to be interested.
That.
They don't embrace the facts. They don't embrace the facts.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I suspect there will be a plea bargain of some type, and you may see some sort of move towards psychiatric hospitalization, something, some sort of
Well, if he
vague
plays
thing.
it right, and we're going to talk about the pitfalls of fame with the panel tonight, but if he plays it right, man, he could have a book deal and.
Well, he could. That's absolutely true. That's the way media works today.
Yeah,
His name is out there. Somebody's going to hire him to do something.
Every top story is about him, and you are an amazing beacon of light and hope, Dr. Drew Pinsky.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Thank you.